Thank you, thank you. I didn't get emotional till later in the speech when I practiced it, so oy vey. Love you too, thank you. Good evening. My name is David Kilmnick, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Long Island Gay and Lesbian Youth, also known as LIGALY. This is really a special occasion, and I want to thank you all so much for being here tonight to celebrate LIGALY's 20th anniversary. Just very special. Tonight's event would not be possible without the generosity of everyone here. And I'd like to thank our presenting sponsors, Lori and Marty Scheinman, our premier sponsor, Bethpage Federal Credit Union, and our platinum sponsors, the Johnson Family Foundation, Family Wellness Center, and to all of our sponsors and host committee, thank you. Thank you so much. I'd also like to recognize the most dedicated board of directors and staff any nonprofit organization could have. Tonight with us is our founding board president, Bob Hawkins, our past board president, Andy Stern, and our current board president, Jason Ryan. Would you all please stand, along with the rest of our incredible board and staff, and everyone please help me in thanking them for all the service that they do for our community. You know, it is a special night for many reasons. One of them is our rosters of honorees this evening, leaders and champions of many social justice causes before it was popular to take on these causes: GLBT, HIV/AIDS, reproductive health and justice, and marriage equality, and more. You know, we certainly have the best of the best with us this evening, and I am so happy that they have joined us. Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi, Andy Stern, Roberta Kaplan, and Edie Windsor, thank you for all you do for all of us. Tonight, we have raised a record $215,000 thus far. All of the proceeds tonight benefit LIGALY's programs that build youth leadership, end anti-GLBT bullying, stop HIV/AIDS, and prevent suicide. Thank you again for your support. So, 20 years, I still can't believe it. This is certainly a special occasion and milestone for the organization, and with that, I've spent a lot of time reflecting and thinking about our history. I remember 20 years ago, people did not believe like an organization like LIGALY could exist in suburban and conservative Long Island. People, including some people here with us tonight, some of my closest friends, said to me, "David, you are crazy. You're absolutely crazy. There's no way a gay organization, especially one for gay youth, can exist and survive here on Long Island. It will never happen." I also remember 20 years ago when we actually got into, it was kind of a secretive mission back then, we got into a few schools to conduct our sensitivity workshops. We had to be brought in undercover, and as I mentioned in the video, escorted into some of these schools with security. When we were in those classrooms, GLBT youth were terrified. You could just see the terror in their eyes. They were terrified to come up to us to ask us a simple question. That simple question was, where can I go to meet other people who feel just like me? Where can I go to meet other people who are just like me? And you could see that fear in their eyes, and they waited till everyone left the room so that no one would be left and so that no one would see them talking to the gay person. You know, it was indeed a different time in 1993. It was indeed a different time in 1993. But 20 years later, I'm here to tell you that after delivering 10,000 workshops to hundreds of thousands of youth and educators in over 110 Long Island school districts, it is possible. 20 years later, I am here to tell you that after serving more than 100,000 GLBT and allied youth, providing them with health education, leadership development, and programs that prevent substance abuse, HIV, and suicide. It is possible. Twenty years later, I'm here to tell you that after organizing tens of thousands to join us at rallies, protests, at school board meetings, at community forums, at town halls across Long Island, in Hauppauge, Mineola, Albany, and Washington, D.C., it is possible. And 20 years later, I am here to tell you that after organizing America's first prom for GLBT youth in the suburbs, and starting the nation's first and only, and still the first and only, Gay Parent Teachers Association, it is possible. And I'm not crazy, at least for that reason. So, 20 years later, it is certainly a different time. Same-sex marriage is legal in 14 nations and 11 states, including our great state of New York. We can serve our... Yes? And that number is probably going to be 12 next week when Minnesota passes it. We can serve our country openly in the military, and every single day we are seeing the tide of public opinion swing our way. This is all very, very exciting. But you know how the age-old saying goes, the more that things change, the more that they stay the same. Unfortunately, this rings true when it comes to anti-GLBT bullying and the disproportionately high rates of suicide amongst our young GLBT people. And we now have a re-emerging health crisis that needs our immediate attention and action. Young gay and bisexual men are becoming infected with HIV at higher rates than any other group of people, again. In fact, 52% of all new HIV cases on Long Island are young gay and bisexual men. So, while we celebrate our legislative victories, and there will be plenty more, we cannot forget our past and our fight that is ahead of us. One of those fights is making sure that every Long Islander, no matter where you live, has a GLBT center that is accessible to them. For one such Long Islander, David Hernandez, a 16-year-old East Hampton gay youth, having a center closer to him could have saved his life. David, a native of Ecuador, came to Long Island 2 years ago to live with his mom and also with the hopes of a better life ahead. Unfortunately, what he faced in his church and his local community was rampant homophobia, bullying, and no support outside of the school's Gay Straight Alliance Club. Right around September 25th, 2012, this was just last year, David called one of his family members and asked them a simple question. He said to that family member, "I have a friend who is thinking of coming out as gay. What should I tell them?" The family member, without hesitancy, responded, Tell them not to. Tell them not to because they are going to go to hell." 4 days later, David committed suicide. I can only imagine the loneliness and despair that David must have felt. There was nowhere for David to turn to, and Legally Center at Bayshore, 60 miles from his home, 60 miles from his home, still on Long Island, was certainly not a place that either he or other young people on the East End could easily get to. This is just not acceptable. Not acceptable. You know, GLBT centers save lives. They do. We have seen it at our 2 centers in Bayshore and Garden City over and over again, which are the only 2 GLBT centers on Long Island. And that is until now. Tonight, for the first time, we are announcing that this July, we will be opening our 3rd center, the GLBT Center of the Hamptons. Yes, the GLBT Center of the Hamptons. This center, located in Old Whalers Church in Sag Harbor, will be a springboard for our organizations to serve the East End communities as we raise enough money, to open our very own state-of-the-art community center. This is something we must do for everyone out on the East End. This is something we must do for David Hernandez. And this is something we must do now. So, 20 years. 20 years, I still can't believe it. The last 20 years has been filled with incredible accomplishments and groundbreaking work on behalf of GLBT youth and their families, both here at home and across the nation. The impact that Legally has made has touched the lives of hundreds of thousands of Long Islanders in ways that we could have only dreamed of in 1993. From the bottom, I just want to say thank you. But from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for your personal support. I want to thank you for your support of Legally. And I ask that you continue to be with Legally as we launch our next 20 years of service. Thank you, thank you, thank you.